everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you might be. This is NNOA, your host, Captain Rick Wright, Board of Directors, historian for the great National Naval Officers Association. And today is the 30th of January. We're getting ready for African American history, kicking off next week. And next week's guest is going to be Lieutenant J. Gilchrist. Lieutenant J. Gilchrist II, who is flying those P-8 Poseidons out on the West Coast, but we'll get back to that later. But ladies and gentlemen, it is time to dance on This is NNOA with a major, I'm talking a major superstar in the United States Navy. Man, I have a treat for you all this afternoon. I'm broadcasting from upstate New York, Syracuse, New York, Marcellus, which is in the suburbs of Syracuse, and our executive director and producer is Roosevelt Reuben Wright III. Well, ladies and gentlemen, she's a member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She's a graduate of the FAMU Rattlers, better known as Florida A&M University down there in Florida. Let me go from upstate New York to 82 degrees and the Florida sunshine and bring on Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy, who's sitting back in her limo down there with the sun shining. Hey, Captain Select Wallace, how you doing this afternoon?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. How are you, sir?
Oh, this is a fantastic treat having you aboard. And on this edition of This is NNOA, as we basically served all the good brothers and sisters in the United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, United States Coast Guard, all of our incredible brothers and sisters working in the Public Health Service and the National Oceanographic Administration. Hey, Captain Select Wallace. You're looking super there on this 30th of January, the year 2021. Hey, where were you born?
I was born in Raleigh, North Carolina. My father was in the Army, so we were stationed, he was stationed in Fort Bragg. So,
oh, you mean
Raleigh, North Carolina.
So you were, here's another example, everybody. You were an Army brat, becomes a superstar in the Navy. Hey, how did that happen?
Yes. We moved and relocated from Fayetteville to Waycross, Georgia, which is where I grew up. And my father got out of the Army then. That's how we moved back to Waycross. And then we relocated to Albany. And when I graduated from high school in 1990, I just needed to get out of my mother's house. I was not going into the Army or the Marine Corps. So my first choice initially was the Air Force, but I made a 62 on my ASVAB, or my AFQT for the ASVAB, and they wanted me to have a 57. So I walked next door to the Navy and told them I wanted to be an engineer, electrical engineer, and they said, all right, we got a job for you, and they signed me up as an electrician.
So you came in the enlisted ranks first?
I did.
And that's right out of high school? Okay.
Yep, I left in July 1990 and left to go to boot camp in April 91. Now,
where was boot camp for you during those days?
Orlando, RTC Orlando.
That's right.
Company K044.
Orlando. And of course, the Nuke Power program is down in Orlando also. Now, you go through boot camp at Orlando, and of course, hey, that scenario no longer exists, does it? The Orlando Recruit Training Command. Everything is at Great Lakes now. Alrighty.
Yep, I went. Yep.
Well, anyhow, you were enjoying now, did you go through boot camp in Orlando, Orange Blossom Trail, Orlando, Disney World, all that stuff's down there? Did you go through in the summertime or the wintertime?
I went in the summertime. We ended up, I want to say we went to SeaWorld when we got our time away. I want to say it was SeaWorld. It may have been Disney World, but I believe it was SeaWorld.
Okay, so you finished RTC recruit training in Orlando, Florida, and hey, did the Navy come through with regards to an A school that fit your role of electrician and look at the world of electronics? Hey, what happened? Where did you go from there?
My recruiter was phenomenal. I know his name is Chief Freddie Pierman, I think his name is. But he guaranteed me, or they guaranteed me an A school, EMA school, which wasn't it wasn't normal then. A lot of people came in as what they call the PAC program now, Seaman, Admiral, Fireman, but I was guaranteed an EMA school. So when I graduated in July of 1991, I went straight to Great Lakes to EMA school.
Straight to Great Lakes. So we kind of got you out of the South and got you into the northern winds
I've
of
never
Lake
seen snow
Michigan.
before.
Did you show up
Yeah.
at Great Lakes in the wintertime or the summertime for A school?
I got there in the summertime, saw my first snow probably October because it was a 9-month school. And that was amazing because I'd never seen snow before being from Georgia. I don't remember snow in North Carolina. I was too young, but it was an amazing experience. I graduated top of my class, so I was a push button third. I don't know if you remember that term.
Yes.
So when I got to my first, so when I got to my first command, which wasn't a ship, and you know, based off of how well you perform in class, you get to choose your ship. So I didn't go to a ship. I went to a dry dock, AFDM 7 Sustain, and that was due to I was number 2 in the class when I graduated.
Oh, you were a superstar, number 2 in the class, Great Lakes. Well, every time I think of Great Lakes, never forget, I was public affairs officer for the Navy's Great Lakes cruise for a lot of years.
Okay.
And we used to do our planning conference at Great Lakes. And I never forget the late Admiral Matt Gaston, first African-American commander of Great Lakes, was when we had the planning meeting up there, and never forget going over to his office. It was in the wintertime too. I landed at Chicago O'Hara Field, but coming out of Syracuse, I was ready for snow, so no problem. And I drove through the snowstorm up through the highway to Great Lakes and got into the quarters there, and it was nice and hot and warm. All right. So tell us about that first command that you reported. You said that was a dry dock?
It was a dry dock. So the amazing part, the dry dock is it doesn't have an engine. So anytime we had to go into the shipyard, we had to get towed to the shipyard. We actually went to Baltimore up there for that time period. But I was there from the end of 91 or 92 to 93. I had my daughter in June of 1993. So I had to leave there once I was pregnant and go to RSG. So I was there not quite right at a year.
And that's one of those. Hey, Captain Select Wallace, that's one of those floating dry docks, huh? Hey, tell the straight audience of people who don't know about floating dry docks, how does it work for getting a ship into it so it can get repaired? You're doing all the electronics and electricity and all that kind of circuitry repairs. What happened? Tell us about that experience.
So a floating dry dock, basically, when we had a ship coming into the dry dock, we would have to ballast, what they call. So we would fill the bottom of the platform, if you will, with water. And our ship, is really, really high. Like our ACOM ladder was not like a regular brow on a ship. It was really, really, really high up because we worked within the walls of the dry dock. So whenever we have a ship coming in, we would start preparing really early in the morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock. We'd ballast the ship all the way down where you could literally walk out from the top of the dry dock onto the water. The ship would come into the dry dock. It would seat very well because we had to have the bricks or the devices that would hold the ship. And we basically would, when we would deballast, we would come up, take the ship out of the water, and then it was required to wear your hard hat and things of that nature. We never really went into the basin because that was for the ship crew. The shipyard crew would do that. So we only worked on the platform. We didn't work on the ships when they came in.
So you finished number 2 and A school, you go up to Baltimore, Maryland. In fact, all you Coast Guardsmen, the Coast Guard Yard over at Curtis Bay, big hi to you all folk this afternoon also. So now, you on this floating dry dock assignment, things are kicking, your evals are through the roof. What happens next, Captain Select Wallace?
Well, after I had my daughter, I decided to stay in because I was toward the end of my enlistment, but then I went to the USS Spear, AS 36 subtender. So the time I came in, women couldn't go on combat ships. So that was in 93 that I went to the Spear, and I was there from 93 to 95. On the USS Spear is where I got my ESWAS pin, and I also was selected for Boost, brought an opportunity for selection and training.
Hey, now let me get this picture really laid on the table nice here. The sister of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, who's a captain select today in the United States Navy. Now you were in that first cadre really of females, weren't you? On board ship, you meant you were on the subtender. Hey, where was that subtender tied up at? Was it in Charleston, South Carolina, or Norfolk, or where was it?
It was in Norfolk. We were in Norfolk. We were next to. So when I was on the Sustain, we were stationed in Norfolk. We only went to Baltimore or Maryland for the shipyard.
Yeah.
We were home base in Norfolk. The LY Spear was in Norfolk. The Shenandoah was across the pier from us. The Land was there as well. The Vulcan. I don't know if you remember that
Oh
ship.
God, look, I sailed on the Vulcan as a Boy Scout. True story. Yeah, in 1958, I was in Boy Scout Troop 115 in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And the Tidewater Council of the Boy Scouts of America had a major connection with the United States Navy. And it was the summer of I'm sure how old I am now. Summer of 1958, the Navy set up a cruise for us. And the cruise that summer was on the USS Vulcan AR-5. And of course, this before, in fact, that was a ship oh my God, I'm so excited this afternoon. Let me slow down, Captain Select. This interview is working out dynamite. And we cruised on the USS Vulcan from Norfolk, and we were supposed to have cruised up to Boston, Massachusetts, and Portland, Maine. And we were at sea for about 3 or 4 days. Then a little bit of a, not skirmish, but a situation happened over in Lebanon, out in the Middle East in the summer of 1958, and we had to cut the cruise short. But yes, I sailed on the Vulcan as a Boy Scout in 1958 out of Norfolk, Thimble Shoals Channel and all. Oh, now, let me keep this train of thought. Now, okay, let's get to the things are getting good. They're getting real good. Now, you mentioned a program that is incredible. It's called Boost, Broaden Opportunity for Officer Selection and Training. Did some chief or some officer come up to you one day, Captain Select Wallace, said, hey, here's a program for you? How did it happen?
So I ended up applying for the program because when I was pregnant with my daughter, DXO, Caucasian man, don't remember his name, pulled me aside and he said, have you ever considered being an officer? And at that time, you know, I didn't see anybody in the Navy look like me. And I said, sir, with all due respect, I really don't do officers.
Yeah.
You know, I've got some things going on, so no. But what he did was he planted a seed. Because when I got to the USS LY Spear and just kind of thinking about it, especially with my daughter, and you know, I wanted to do something better for her.
Yes.
I started thinking hard about it, and then I took my transcript, or I went to talk to. We didn't have a career counselor on the ship. He was an STG. I went to him, said I was interested in an officer program. He looked up the Boost program and looked up the criteria. He asked me what my GPA was, what my SAT scores were. My GPA met the criteria, but my SAT score was like 10 points under what was required. I think it was 950 to be required. And so what he told me was, you need to take your SAT over again. Just apply next year after you take your SAT. Well, I went back to my division officer. Now, I remember him, Chief Warrant Officer Borders. I would never forget him because when I went back and shared what the chief had told me about waiting, he asked Chief Warrant Borders, said, what does the instruction say? And at that point in time, I didn't really understand that question. And he says, you never leave your career in the hands of someone else. He says, what does the instruction say?
Roger that.
So I went to go get the instruction, and lo and behold, I had time to take my SAT over again. So I studied really hard with my daughter. We were in port. I was at Mr. Borders' home working on my, you know, he was a mentor to me. We were working on my personal statement and things of that nature. And I submitted my application without the scores, knowing that the scores were coming. When the scores came in, I made a 960. I was going down Shore Drive yelling that I'd gotten, at least met the criteria. So, right. And so the board met, I want to say October 94. I found out maybe November 94 that I'd selected for E5. And then, you know, I had to go through the medical screening. And so once I got to the medical screening, ViewMed came back and said I was disqualified from the program for anemia. And so, you know, it's like right in my grasp at this time, like I'm probably going to be an officer. This is something that's attainable for me. And I didn't ever think that, 'cause I didn't come in the Navy to be an officer. I came to do my GI Bill, do my 4 years and get out. But now there's a different opportunity and door that opened up for me. And so I did all the medical stuff that they needed to really get a waiver. The person who I was in, I don't know who that person was, but I told Dr. Vincent Shan, was a doctor at the time, who said that I was not qualified, and he wanted to look at me and monitor me for 6 months. And I said, sir, with all due respect, I have 2 weeks for you to do whatever you need to do to get me a waiver for this officer program. And so he says, okay, well, what we'll do is do a bone marrow biopsy, rule out any type of serious, significant medical issues. So I went through that. And then he cleared me and suggested I get a waiver. And eventually I got a waiver and I left to go to Rhode Island in June of '95.
So boost at Rhode Island, oh, we keep you in these northern climates to let you have some fun in the Navy. The boost program is kicking. And at Rhode Island, you're basically getting in really a college preparatory kind of mood academically, and also from the military standpoint, getting you even in shape to get ready to become an officer. So we go to Newport, Rhode Island, where a great Omega brother now, Captain Milton Troy III is a commander up there.
Yes, I know Milton Troy.
Yeah, he's an Omega brother, you know, Delta Sigma Theta Sorrow. All right, our network is working. All righty, so you come out of booth, you ready for college. What happens next? That is Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy.
So I took my SAT over again and got the scores well enough to get accepted into Florida A&M University. I was trying to get close to home. I grew up in Albany, even though I left North Carolina, went to Waycross until I was in 10th grade, and then relocated to Albany, Georgia. That's where I entered the Navy, from Albany, Georgia. That's where my mother currently resides. So I was trying to find a place close to my parents. My father lives in Waycross, my mother lives in Albany, to help me with my daughter while I was in school. But they didn't have a Navy ROTC at Albany State University. They only had Army. The closest was FAM. So I had not heard of FAM until I got to Booth. I had not even heard of Delta until I got to Booth. I went through Booth program, got accepted at Florida A&M. I wanted to do electrical. I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer, but the closest thing I could do was electrical engineering, especially since I was an EM. I had some of the background and the foundation of that. So it was a natural progression for me to study electrical engineering. Did that for 4 years, graduated in 2000 and got my commission. By this time, my daughter was 7 when I graduated. And then I was a ship driver for 4 years.
Yes. Now, hey, Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy. Let me kind of back up a bit. Let's get back to that FAMU, Florida A&M, Rattler experience. All right, you're electrical engineering major at a great HBCU, Florida A&M. By the way, the Florida A&M ROTC unit, when I first came into NNOA on the board back in the 1980s, Commander John D. Fontro was president of the National Naval Officers Association, and he was his replacement was Captain Leon Gilchrist, who was president of NNOA, and he was the CO of the NROTC program at Florida A&M University. So I got a real love there.
And to add to your notable skippers at NROTC, Captain Donnie Cochran was my PNS.
Oh, yes, the first brother commanding officer of the Blue Angels. Hey, Donnie, my brother. Man, the story is getting incredible. Oh, let me get back. Captain Donnie Cochran, United States Navy retired. Very dear friend. In fact, he's going to be a guest on This Is NNOA in an up-and-coming episode. Boy, you got some role model mentors here. In fact, Captain Mary McAdams, who's head of our mentorship and mentoring program with NNOA, this is the story that you're telling today on the beauty of mentoring and having role models and people who are looking after you. And so you had Florida. Hey, look, you went to all the Florida A&M football games, right?
As many as I could. But between being a single mother, an engineering degree.
Yes.
When I played Delta, that was a lot going on.
Oh, God, you can't do that.
I couldn't do it all. I would go to homecoming games, but I probably wouldn't go to a lot of the regular season games.
But you were an electrical engineer. Boy, I'm so proud of you. I never forget when I was, I'm an old guy. Of course, I finished undergrad at Elizabeth City State University in North Carolina. I was an industrial arts technology major. My emphasis, by the way, was electronics, undergrad. But when I was in high school, electrical engineering was really getting big. And of course, the big double E school for African-American brothers and sisters was the North Carolina A&T State University,
Yeah.
rival
My
school
cousin
of
went there.
FAMU. All right, and
Yeah.
the brothers and stuff never go to A&T, going to major in electrical engineering. And of course, they didn't pay much attention. They didn't do the right attention to mathematics, you know, in high school. So they got to A&T and took that first calculus course, man, and they
were humble.
They walk with their slide rules and all that, so looking pretty. And that course humbled everybody. You see them down in the student union building at about midterm time. Hey, man, what you majoring? Man, I'm majoring in sociology, man. But proud of you. Double E major. Okay, Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy. You graduate from Florida A&M University, baccalaureate degree in electrical engineering. You remember the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. You walk across the stage, we hand you your diploma and your commission as an ensign in the Navy. Take the story on. What takes place next?
All right, I go to Rhode Island where they still had SWAT stock. It was 6-month school for division officers before I went to my ship. That has since, I don't know what they're doing with it now, but I left there after, I was in Rhode Island again from July of 2000 to December 2000, and I reported to the USS Philippine Sea, first female on that ship. Well, I take that back. The XO was on her way out, but she was the first female on the ship, but she wasn't part of ship's company. So I was the first female a part of ship's company.
Were you also, boy, I just hate to interrupt, were you also the first African-American female on the Philippine Sea?
Yes.
Officer?
Yes.
You finished officer basic, you're a young ensign. Okay, Captain Select Juanique Wallace, let's hear the show. You report, you come up the brow, salute the ensign, you're on board the USS Philippine Sea. Tell us what kind of incredible vessel that is in the United States Naval Fleet.
So Philippine Sea is CG-58 cruiser, Aegis cruiser. So before I got on board and during the last one of the conflicts, they were the first ship to shoot Tomahawks and 9/11. So they have a strong history there. It was interesting for me because I was the first female on the ship, which just by nature, I was the first female to get a SWO pin on that ship. So my name is engraved. They have everybody who gets their SWO pin on there. So I took my boys on board to see my name on there. And then I started off as the ADCA because they had so many ensigns on the ship. You didn't know what to do with them. So I was the assistant DCA, if you will, and I was responsible for damage control petty officers, really starting up a brand new work center. And that was difficult for me because the expectation if I came on board was they thought I was like the junior officer there, the ensigns thought I was going to be the George. And I said, well, I don't think that's going to happen because my commissioning date is in April. And most of the time when you graduate in the spring, they usually follow with the Naval Academy graduates when they try to identify you whether you would be a Bull or a George. Well, because I graduated in April, I didn't count in that category. So I was senior to him. So he still had to retain being a Bull. And so those types of politics I had to deal with when I first got on board.
Right.
Some of the sailors, they weren't used to working for a female. But because I was prior enlisted, I had a different energy. And I hope that I made them feel comfortable. But my philosophy these days is I lead like I parent. And so that's how I correct anybody, if you will. And so I had a JD Ball, my Master Chief there. I still communicate with him. My chain was phenomenal. We shared the same birthday. But I remember just a little quick sea story when we were doing some PMS and I was walking across the ship, walking past the ship, and there was a sailor at the top of the missile deck and they were doing PMS and one at the bottom. And he had this radio and he was just going to town about folks' mamas. Your mama this and your mama that and your mama this and your mama that. Well, when the sailor saw me, his eyes got really big and I said, let me see your radio. Let me hold your radio. And he realized that he wasn't answering him and going back and forth with him anymore. And he said, whatever his name was, I can't remember. He said, are you there? Are you okay? And then he heard the next voice he heard was mine. And I said, you might want to be careful who mama you're talking about. It might be a mama passing by. Yeah. And so he was like, oh my goodness, I am so sorry, man. I said, you good, you straight. I said, just be mindful of your conversation. And I kept it moving. So ultimately, by the time we went on deployment, we had 12 female officers. We had to move all of our males down to Yeah, no enlisted until they came back from deployment. I transferred during deployment, so I never got an opportunity to work with the enlisted female on that ship, and even my subsequent ship, the USS Dole, which is now decommissioned.
Yes.
It was one of 3 females on that ship. So my time as a SWO, I never worked with enlisted females, if that makes sense.
Yeah, look, Captain Select Wallace, you on board the USS Philippine Sea. Where was the home port for the Philippine Sea?
Mayport, Florida.
Mayport, okay. St. John's River Channel, right out into the Atlantic. Okay, right.
Yes, SCJ. Yeah,
okay.
SCJ.
So the Philippine Sea tour, you don't go to a shore assignment, you go right to another ship, next stop. Okay, tell us about your next ship.
So on the Philippine Sea, I laterally transferred to human resources. So in 2004, I put my application in.
Yes.
I was accepted to the HR community, but the SWO community wanted me to fulfill my 2-term DIVO tours. So they would not release me until I did another tour on the USS Dole. Commander Tony Martin was my skipper. And Commander Nate Allen from Grambling State was my XO.
Yes, Grambling, Tacker, Nate, yes. Look, what kind of ship was a Dole? What kind of ship was that?
FFG.
Oh.
FFG 39.
Oh, God, yeah. Okay, FFGs, those are the ships that I'm most familiar with. We brought a lot of those to the U.S. through the Great Lakes cruises for years. USS Stark, USS Oliver Hazard Perry, the Extotion, and of course, the USS Samuel Eliot Morrison, another great NNOA, Captain Tom Daniels was skipper that Navy back in the 90s. Yeah, those FFGs were those LM2500 General Electric gas turbine plants. Got to talk that way to a surface warfare officer like you, Captain Select Wallace. Let you know, Captain Rick, it's for real there. You know what I'm getting at on this. This is NNOA. Okay, now a great community, and I can see it coming. I mean, with your incredible personality, your leadership style, the human resources community, because we're dealing with people, personnel. Is you transfer it into. Okay, you leave that FFG, you come into the HR community. Captain Select Juanique Wallace, Delta Sigma Theta sorority sister. Now this in the 2000s. What about 2004? We're talking now.
2004. Yep.
Okay.
I left the USS Dole in 2005, and I went to Naval Postgraduate School for my master's in operations research.
Okay. So let me back up. You go to Naval Postgraduate School. That's our big graduate school out there in Paradise, out in California. And you go there for your master's degree. All right. That FAMU baccalaureate in electrical engineering is kicking. All right, all you folks talking about the power of HBCUs. HBCUs are dynamite schools. We get you ready for everything. Okay, you get your master's degree from Naval Post. Hey, tell us about the Naval postgraduate experience, Captain Select Wallace, especially for a lot of the young JOs who are checking us out this afternoon on this episode of This is NNOA.
So the first, Monterey is beautiful, 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 beautiful. Because I had 2 children by this time. My son was 3, my daughter was 11. I lived at Pacific Grove. Most people live in either in Monterey proper, or they'll live in Salinas, because the housing is a lot cheaper. Some people live in Carmel, but either way, I lived in Pacific Grove. So for me, again, my parenting ruled how I operated and what I experienced. I lived my life through my children. So I attended classes, and when I came home, I was mom at this point, a student when they were sleeping and whatever the case may be. And then the other thing was my curriculum was really tough for me.
Oh God, yes.
HR,
yes.
Yeah. So most HRs go out for manpower analysis, but we are trying to grow our cohort of OAs in the HR community.
Right.
So I was the only HR in my class. One of 3 African Americans. I'm still friends with the other female African American, Captain Pam Dozier. She was a supply type, and for me, the experience was wonderful because I got a chance to come to California, because I'm a Southern girl from Georgia, if you will, and so just having that experience was amazing for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but my mentor, who's actually my promoting officer, Captain retired, Larissa Booker, when she was a detailer and she saw my record and she saw that I was OA, the one thing that she did say is, you are a diamond in the HR community. And that resonated with me. And I was like, I didn't realize and understand how important, you know, not only the EE degree, but the OA degree for me, for me.
Well, Captain Select Wallace, FAMU grad, master's degree from the Naval Postgraduate School. In fact, Superintendent Marsha Evans, Admiral Evans, of course, I spent many years on faculty at Syracuse University in the S.I. Newhouse School of Public Communications, 38 years here. When she was superintendent, she kept calling me, Captain Wright, I want you to come out and be on faculty at the Navy Postgraduate School. And I was so busy here at Syracuse in the Newhouse School. And of course, I was the only African-American on faculty during that time. In fact, I was the first African-American on faculty here in the S.I. Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse. But again, that's another story. Let's get back to you. Okay, now, you got that master's degree, the baccalaureate is kicking, you got sea duty on 2 big ships, you got an enlisted background, and you got that motherly parenting skills of raising a family that you're applying to your Navy experience. Now, coming out of Monterey, Naval Postgraduate School, Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy, what is the assignment now?
So my assignment then was Navy Recruiting District St. Louis, now called NTAG Mid-America. But I was an officer recruiter for about 6 months, and then I fleeted up, if you will, to what they call OPO, which is Officer Programs Officer. So I managed all the officer recruiters in the St. Louis area. We covered about 250,000 square miles. So I've had recruiters as far as Wichita, Kansas, in St. Louis proper. I had them in Kansas City, Missouri, Peoria, Illinois, Paducah, Kentucky, and all of them were, you know, for lack of better words, all of my babies. Most of them were senior chiefs, a lot of them were, you know, 2 of them lieutenant commanders. I was a lieutenant at that time, but I did select the 04 during that tour. But I did, I stayed there for 4 years.
Lieutenant Commander is surfacing now. You are basically handling recruiting for the Mid-American section of the United States of America, St. Louis, the Arch, down on the shores of the Mississippi River, bringing officers into the Navy. And of course, you're the OPO there. And of course, hey, you had a lot of colleges too, the colleges and stuff to try to recruit the officers for the OCS program. Then there's NROTC for high school kids who want to get into the NROTC program. And of course, some of them show up and want to go to Naval Academy. When we said, oh, you got to get a congressional appointment. I served on those kind of boards too. Okay, I hung around CROOPCOM a long time. Now, from St. Louis, you're the OPO there. Are we going to keep you in the recruiting command, or are you going to make another move somewhere else?
Well, because that's not my payback tour for OA, I had to go to Millington. So the HR meccas, where you have the predominantly, you know, the most population of HR officers, either Millington, Tennessee, or DC.
Yes.
So I chose to go to Millington in PERS 45, which is the enlisted distribution section. That's where PCS money, you know, allocating commanders and with the next COs and all that. I did that for 2 years, but I was milestone screened, so that was just a stop for me. I ultimately ended up, after 2 years there, going to N10, OPNAV N10, when Admiral Van Berskert was the CMP and Admiral Moran took over during that time. So I was there from 13 to 15, and I selected to 05 in that position when I was up in N10.
So you're
St. Louis, Tennessee to DC.
St. Louis on the shores of the Mississippi River. So we just take a Mississippi riverboat on down to Memphis, all right? And you had Naval Air Station Middleton, or we call it NAS Memphis, and all the personnel people that moved. But I went down to Memphis a number of times, Middleton, of course, in my role with Naval Recruiting Command and working with the Campus Liaison Officer Program. That facility, they really, I mean, they moved everything, a lot of stuff out of Washington to Middleton. Man, the cost of living, the base is expansive, and things were kicked. But you got to go to D.C. Washington is next on the scene. Now, were you with the Pentagon or in Washington? Or
I was at NSF Arlington. So where the old annex was, that's where the building that I was in, that took over where the annex is.
Okay, yes, the Naval Annex. Yes, gotcha. pretty close to Arlington National Cemetery too, wasn't it?
Right.
Nice.
Right. So the annex had gone. They had already torn the annex down. So the facility there, is Naval Station facility, is there now.
Yes, I never forget back in the 1980s when Captain Ed Benford, the late Captain Ed Benford, Intel, he was president of the National Naval Officers Association, and we had a big NNOA board meeting in Washington in the old building of the Navy Annex there in Washington, D.C. And of course, I never forget good times, D.C. All right, you hang around Washington. In fact, I never forget the first NNOA convention that I went to was in 1982. Norfolk, Virginia, Captain Select Wallace. All right, I go to the, I'm brand new. In fact, here's how I found out about NNOA. I got my commission. I was direct commission, Lieutenant Commander, Navy, 7th of February, 1981. Hey, guess what? I have prior enlisted in my background. United States Army, Hawk missiles, electronics, went through Fort Bliss, and then I went to Germany and hung around in Europe and had duty with the Army Air Force, motion picture, radio service, AFN, all that kind of good stuff. So I got some Army in me too. But the point I'm making is that I get my commission in the Navy. And then I got a phone call from our CO of NRD Buffalo at the time, Commander Mike Edwards, who had replaced Captain Steve Maganka. And he called me on the phone and said, Commander Wright, yes, I want to send you and Chuck down to the NNOA convention. Cut orders for you and make it nice. Grab one of our brand new G cars. I said, oh God, yes, I would love to go, sir. I didn't know what NNOA was. So I picked up the phone and called over to the OPO office at NRD Buffalo at that time. And Lieutenant Chuck Parr was his name. SWO was part of the OPO team. He was a brother, African-American officer, a graduate of Prairie View, A&M down in Texas. So I picked up the phone. I picked up the phone, buddy, and said, "Hey, Chuck, man, what's NNOA?" And he started laughing on the phone, and he said, "Oh man, you're gonna enjoy it. NNOA is our organization of diversity, our mission, and also to make sure the brothers and sisters in the Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard have a home and a place to go and a place to discuss what we need to get done in serving the United States of America and the sea services." So we went down. But here's the question I want to make about. Walked in, and at the opening ceremony, the opening general session, I walked in that ballroom in the Waterside Hotel and saw this whole array of brother and sister United States Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard officers. I said, oh my God, that was incredible. And having grown up in the Navy and Coast Guard, which is another story, it was, I mean, awesome. And what I'm really trying to get at, Sister of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, is that Admiral Lawrence Chambers, the second African-American graduate of the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis, Maryland, was a keynote speaker. And you know what his speech was that day? Okay, all my dear brothers and sisters and family members, you all got to get out of Washington, D.C. Y'all got to get back out in the fleet and get into your specialties and all. But that was the story. So you leave Washington, D.C. Now you're a commander now, United States Navy. 05. Oh man, the family is growing. Oh, your evals are off schedule. Those off the fit reports are kicking. And from Washington, where do we end up now? Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy. From Washington to
from Washington, because I married in 2014. We went, and he's in Tennessee. I went back to Tennessee.
Okay,
back at NRC headquarters. Yeah, so I went back to recruiting headquarters at that time as an 05 in an OA job. Did that for 2 years. Was milestone screen, major or commander command screen, and then I left there in 2017 to go to NRD Jacksonville as the XO fleet up to the CO.
So we come the XO of Naval Recruiting District, Jacksonville, Florida. You've already been there with a sea tour duty as a big SWO, and you become the commanding officer. By the way, I found a photograph. Well, I got to maybe find Rude making, but the photograph of you taking over the NRD. That was
oh yeah.
It wasn't at the air station. It was an aircraft, or so I think in the background. I was looking.
It was in the hangar. Yeah, it was in the hangar. The CO that I was relieving was prior pilot, F-18, F-14, fighter pilot. Love him to death. We're still really good friends, Brandon Kaiser. But yes, that was his decision. He was retiring, so we had it in the hangar.
And you are now the commanding officer of Naval Recruiting District, Jacksonville, Florida. Now,
First African American.
Captain Select Wallace, having hung around CROOPCON myself, now all of a sudden we get a whole new kind of a transformational change taking place with regards to the Naval Recruiting Command, a new way of marketing recruiting. Were you in that transformational phase of when we made it? Well, let me just shut up and let you talk about the transformational phase of recruiting, from NRDs to they got that pretty Hollywood name now. That Hollywood talent acquisition, that's kind of stuff they use out in Hollywood, movie stars, and all that. Hey, tell us about that transformation, or if you would like to.
So the virtual, so we started off from 2013, 2015 to 2017, when I was at NRC headquarters, with the beginning of the transformation. But even before that, we started taking our human resource assets, our recruiters, out of urban areas, out of rural areas. Right. We found that we weren't getting a lot of individuals coming in, so we went to a virtual recruiting construct. So we went from that, and then it was a natural progression from 15 to 17 to go from a legacy recruiting model to a pillar recruiting model. What that really means is legacy recruiting is, cradle to grave, one person you're talking to. When I came in, probably when you came in, even though you one person. Now, not much, definitely side. We have sales person that's interested in maybe, and you say, go send your assessor, the person with your paperwork, do your thing, your stuff, assessor, and once you raise your right hand, then you go hand it off to what we call an onboarder, and that's the person that's going to keep you motivated and keep you, straight and narrow for you to go to boot camp. So we have 3 people doing the job of what one person used to do, and the quality of life for our recruiters is phenomenally better, because typically, if you cradle to grave, you're working with that applicant. If you have 4 or 5 applicants, that's a lot for a recruiter, because that just takes away your time from home. And
yes.
So it's been an interesting transition.
I forget what the recruiting stations are called, but the recruiting commands are called Navy Talent Acquisition Groups.
Yes, that's the new scenario we have now. Well, Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy, you leave the command of recruiting, handling all that good stuff in Florida. Now, there is one thing I want to bring up. I think I found a photograph of you at the NROTC program at Florida A&M. I think you brought some of your recruiters over. That was you, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I tell you what, my question, let's just be for real. Now you're a Florida A&M grad, Captain Select, you're getting ready to leave recruiting, go to another command, but you have a chance to go back home. And I saw you in that auditorium and all the midshipmen sitting around, and you had your staff with you, and here you are, this beautiful sister, United States Naval officer. Tell me about, how did you feel when you were in there talking to those midshipmen, those students who were undergraduate students at Florida A&M University, your alma mater, to come back in that role? Tell me just a little, for me, I'm a kind of one of those emotional guys, and like to look at it, because that is really, that's something else, to get back to an HBCU, and you're coming in a big time naval officer. And
it's certainly a full circle moment. Anytime I step foot on, the highest of 7 hills, I always get chills. But going back from that capacity, I always made it a point to go and talk to the PNS or the XO and say, I'm available if you all need me. My recruiters work here in the relationship we want to do, but let me just take it back. Admiral Brendan McLean made it very clear that recruiting command was going to work with NNOA and start going and being visible with ROTC, the ROTC units. And I thought that was great. So now Commander Desmond Walker actually came to NRD Jacksonville, sat down and talked to this, ma'am, we got to get together. We got to connect. I want to start going to the NRTCs within your AOR. So we had 9. We had 9 in NRD Jacksonville. And so we actually went to all of them. FAMU was the first stop. We didn't get a chance to go to Savannah, but we did go to Embry-Riddle. We didn't go to UF, but we went to Jacksonville University. And there was one other one that we went to that the entire staff with NNOA complement. But being able to go and talk to those young midshipmen, the first thing I would start off with is, 20 years ago, I was sitting right where you were sitting. And I know how concerned I was about what my future was going to look like. So I'm just trying to just drop some leadership nuggets to you and just kind of answer your questions from the real perspective of what can you expect, when you get to your first command. I didn't have any Marines to come with me to help me for those that were Marine option, but I brought some chiefs with me. I brought a warrant officer with me who I served with on the USS Doyle, who reminded me of days like, man, I served with you when you were on the Doyle. And he's,
Yes.
so that was wonderful. And just being able to, one, reconnect with my peers and then impart that wisdom on those. And it was just so amazing because a lot of the ROTC instructors, they didn't think we were going to be received well, or we weren't they were going to be really quiet. It was going to be in receive mode, but they were really asking very good questions and, things like, if you have a chief that, is telling you what to do, how you deal with that, or as a, female on the ship, how do you manage that with parenting, and things of that nature. And so I would always just be completely real with them and say, everything is not easy. I chose to come out of the SWOL community because I put my family first. That worked out for me. But you have to go in understanding that your journey, your book of who you are is going to be written by you. And don't let anyone tell you what you cannot do. You ask, you find out what the guidance is, you apply if it interests you, and the worst thing answer can tell you is no. Especially, I had two engineering students that really pulled me aside, females, that were getting ready to go subs, and I was really excited about that because they were both engineers. We all went to, even going to FAMU, FSU, and TCC, we all shared the NRTC unit. So they went to FSU, but we all went to the same engineering school. So many of the same professors that I had when I was there, they had too. And they were just really overwhelmed and asked me all these really good questions. We got a good group of folks coming that's going to relieve us. And that's what it's about for me. But the feeling to walk in that auditorium and see those midshipmen and them see me and say, I can do that. Because at the end of the day, we didn't talk about it, but while I was at, when I was at Tennessee the second time, I started my doctoral program. So I finished that right before I took over CO, because I had to get it done before I started CO to direct my time. But I also, in the meantime, got another master's so that I can get my JPME too, because I really wanted to make myself competitive for 06. And I knew that for whatever reason, I just didn't want to leave anything to chance. When they saw my record for 06, the very first time, I wanted them to say, she's already operating and performing as a captain. The only thing she's missing is the official word. And that's kind of how I kind of presented myself to them. And that's what I talk to anybody. So,
Well,
my 19-year-old.
Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy, graduate of Florida A&M University, electrical engineering undergraduate degree, master's degree from Navy Postgraduate School, another master's degree, and now
I wanted to get, from the Army War College. The other master's from the Army War College.
The Army War College, and now the PhD is on the table too, right?
Yep, that's from Capella University. I finished that in March 2018.
Okay, I was, I go through a doctoral program myself, PhD from Syracuse University in instructional technology. But I want to say that, that caveat for Delta, everybody's listening. Hey, to all of our brothers and sisters checking out the show this afternoon, this is NNOA. I'm your host, Captain Rick Wright, historian, United States Navy, retired for the great National Naval Officers Association. And our guest this afternoon is Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy, bachelor's degree from Florida A&M, master's degree Navy Postgraduate School, another master's degree from the Army War College or some, well, that's close enough. And she also just got her PhD too, so hey, this sister of Delta, Sigma Theta, wearing the red and the white, is dancing in the United States Navy. Now, Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy. You have left the recruiting command, Jacksonville command, and then you for major command. And where are you located now? Something tells me you're still in Florida. You can't get away from Florida.
I am in, I'm in MacDill Air Force Base at SOCOM.
Oh, you at SOCOM over at Tampa, St. Petersburg, Tampa, Florida, Tampa Bay, MacDill Air Force Base. You're at the highest of levels of decision makings in the defense of the United States of America. Tell us about your present position and tell us what you can tell us. And we'll do that. And we're getting down to the big nitty gritty, as Gladys Knight the Pips would say right now. Tell us about MacDill and what you're doing over there, sister.
So I work in J1 and I'm a division chief in plans, policies, and programs. My biggest lift is policy, supporting General Clark, who is the commander of SOCOM. And we just continue to support our special operators out there as they do good things for the nation.
Well, you are in paradise, SOCOM, MacDill Air Force Base there in Tampa, Florida. Your Captain Select 06 is coming. Hey, we got to have that wedding. You got to let me know when the wedding down ceremony. I got to make this one, sister. Brothers Omega. We got to do Sweet Out of Omega D and everything for you on that day. Now, a Captain Select Juanique Wallace, what does NNOA mean to you before I let you go this afternoon? I know you're waiting on your son. He's playing football over that football field right now. But what does NNOA mean to you?
It is an ability and avenue to make sure that I'm on the right track and that I pay it forward to those that are coming behind me. I'm on the other end of my time in the Navy. And so Tremaine Williams is the name that sticks out to me, because when I was a CO of NRD, or maybe the XO, I brought NNOA to him, just like Captain Booker did to me, just like Captain retired Reagan did to me. My first NNOA conference was in 2009, and that's where I met Lieutenant Commander Nicole Cuthbertson. I'm not sure you've heard that name before.
Yes.
A host of my peers that I had no knowledge of. And so for me and NNOA, the relationship is to give back to an organization that has, Captain Bernard Jackson was he was my Commodore when I was at Desron 14, when I was pregnant with my second son, my first baby.
Yeah.
And he subsequently, he and I both walked across the state at the same time getting our doctorate degree. So the link and the network and the family and the mentorship that I get from NNOA is, no matter how long it's been since I've talked to somebody, if I know them from NNOA, I can reach out and say, how you doing? And they're like, what we need. And in that is family. That's an extended family. And that's what NNOA means to me. My family.
Well, family, National Naval Officers Association. Today on this edition of This is NNOA, we have been blessed by having the incredible appearance of Dr. Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy, now in a major command billet with SOCOM at the MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. And she is a superstar. Bravo Zulu to you from Captain Rick Wright here, host of This is NNOA. And today's production has been produced and directed by Roosevelt Reuben Wright III, graduate of the SI Newhouse School of Public Communications, Syracuse University. And Doctor, you have to be my son, and I love him so much. He's doing a great job for us at NNOA. And before I let you go, you got any special shout outs you want to shout out to the NNOA family this afternoon? Dr. Captain Select Wallace, United States Navy.
I just want to thank Nicole Cuthbertson, because she was the one I believe that put my name up for this, because she called me, she says, ma'am, would you mind getting interviewed? And I said, for what? And she was like, just do it. So she is an amazing woman, nurse practitioner, wealth of knowledge. She's going some places. I look to see her grow. So she is my shout out for NNOA.
Well, I love her. Lieutenant Commander Nicole, our great secretary on the board of directors of the National Naval Officers Association. And my love for Nicole is in another way too, because every time we have a conference, Zoom conference, I still got to sit and talk to her. She's got all this big collection of radios.
Radios. Yes, I've seen them personally.
Yes, radios. And I can't wait to supposed to have a one-on-one, not through technology, but my doctoral degree is in radio that I did here at Syracuse University. I've worked a lot of radio stations in my career, and I love radio broadcasting. In fact, I'm working on a book now called I Turn Up the Radio by Dr. CAPT Roosevelt. That'll be done. I'm going to work on it as soon as I finish up this podcast this afternoon. So, bravo Zulu to you, Dr.
Thank you,
Captain Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy, and you're waiting for your son. Better, what's your son's name that you're waiting
Jeremiah.
for?
He started playing with a friend of his, Jeremiah. The Jeremiah is what I call him.
And the sun is still shining down there in Florida. What's the temperature? 82 degrees.
It is 81.
81 degrees in the Florida breeze. And I'm talking to you. We broadcast from upstate New York, Syracuse, New York, Marcellus out in the suburbs of Syracuse, where the temperature is 24 degrees and we got about 7 inches of snow on the ground. So everybody, I'm happy. I'm loving it. Next week, we will have Lieutenant J. Gilchrist II, who is naval aviator, flying P3, not the P3, the new P8 Poseidon jets out in Willoughby, will be our guest next week. And coming up on the 13th will be Vice Admiral Mason Brown, United States Coast Guard, will be our guest. So we're going to be big for African American History Month. But in the meantime, boy, I really hate to let you go, sweetheart of Omega Dear, Delta sister, Captain Dr. Select Juanique Wallace, United States Navy. Take care, love your family, and tell your sons that Uncle Rick up here in Syracuse, man, I recruit a lot of football players for the Syracuse University Orange, so keep getting them ready. I can make a little connection. All righty. Well, it's showtime. Another edition of This is NNOA. Dr. Captain Select Juanique Wallace. Hate to let you go, sister. Sweetheart of Omega Dear, Delta. Take care, and I'll talk to you. We'll get back to you. So long. Take care. Enjoy the Florida sun.